Today I'm going to be showing you how to put together a lineup for your team. This is just one way that I've found that works well for me to put together a lineup. Of course, there's other ways that maybe you'll kind of learn along the way, but this is probably the easiest way that I've learned to put together a lineup. This is probably one of the hardest parts of being a track coach, but it's also one of my favorite parts because it's sort of like building a puzzle. The best lineup that you can make, those are the lineups that are going to win you the races. If you can spread out your best athletes across the lineup, you're going to be able to give yourself a lot more points, a lot more chances to take home some trophies and plaques, all the good things you want to see. Okay. Um, Typically, I like to start by making my eighth grade lineup because these eighth grade athletes, those kids can only be filled into this lineup space, whereas my sixth and seventh grade athletes, they can kind of fill in wherever I need them to because they can be a part of either lineup. Okay. Typically, whenever I first start making a lineup, I will print this template here. So this template is available to you on the track webpage, but I will print it out and then I will fill it in with pencil. So like kind of like a rough draft of it and take it to practice with me. That way, if there's a kid that forgets they have a soccer game or something, you can kind of erase it and put someone else in there very easily. So I like to have the rough draft version done first, but for this one, I'm just going to kind of walk you through how I would make that rough draft version. I also, whenever I'm doing the lineup, I like to have the list of my athletes here so I know that I'm going to get all of those people into the lineup and at least two times or two spots in the lineup. So that's just one of the things that we do with our program is we try and make sure that each person gets at least two events to run in at every meet. Okay. Now that will be different for if you're doing a big invitational meet, then obviously some of those kids won't get to participate, or maybe they're only going to be in one race. So whenever I start to build a lineup, the easiest thing that I like to do first is take my best athletes and put them in their spots. So this girl here, Paige, she's one of our best athletes. So I'm going to go ahead and put her in her events first. So over here, she will be one of my varsity 100-meter dash. She will stay in bold because she will be in the varsity section. She will be in my 4x1, and she will also be in my 200-meter dash and my long jump. So she's a part of a lot of different things. Okay, so I've got her in her 4 events. And then when I know she's done, I go back to my roster page and I'll highlight that she is in her events. She's in at least 2 things, so I know she's done for now. Okay. My next one I'm going to put in here, Kelly is also one of our sprinters. She will be in our 4x1 relay. She will also be in our 200-meter dash. And she sometimes does our 4x4. And then I will go again and cross her name off so I know she's filled in. Okay, so those are our top 2 athletes that we have on our 8th grade spots. And I know that doesn't look like I've done a lot here in the lineup, but that really gives me a solid base to know that I'm going to get a good chunk of points from those athletes right there. And then I'm going to fill in where else is needed. The next thing I like to do is do my throwers. Typically, your throwers are only going to be in the throwing event. So those ones make it pretty easy to get those placed in. So our athlete here, that back, Graham, she's one of our best throwers. We will put her in both of those events. And we will get her in discus. And cross her off because she's in her too. She doesn't do anything else besides throwing. Okay, and unfortunately, she's the only 8th grade thrower we have, so we'll just leave those spots there for now. And then, like I said, I can go in and fill in the 7th and 6th graders into those spots if we have some other throwers that we can move up. The next group that I like to do is take care of the distance runners because those distance runners, they typically will only do the distance events. So we can put those into our 1600 or mile and our half mile race. And usually they'll do one or the other. Sometimes they'll do both. Those kids are kind of the exception where that maybe they just do one race or they're going to do a distance race and then they'll also run the open 400 maybe like as a warm-up. Okay, so putting in some of our distance kids, I know Morgan is one of our distance kids. And I will also put her down in the open 400 because that will give her a nice warm-up space. And I'll mark her off that she's in her too. Whitney is another one of our good distance girls. She will run both the 16 and the 800. And I'll cross her off. And then we have a few other distance girls, but I'm not going to go through all of that. You would kind of understand. I'll just put those in. Usually with the distance races, you can put as many people in there as you want. So that makes it kind of easy to get all of those kids in their places after you get kind of your best athletes in the spots. So once you have your distance kids in there, you should only have a few people left. So I'm going to go ahead and cross off the rest of our distance kids just so I don't have to worry about trying to get those kids in there. Okay, now a few other things as you're doing this, you'll start to understand what events the kids are good at and what events that they usually always run. So going down my list now, I just need to make sure I get all the rest of these kids in at least two. Okay, so my first one, Morgan, I know she's going to do hurdles. I know she's going to do long jump. So I'm going to put her in those two first. And then I might just find another spot for her that she is going to be successful at. Okay, and she also is a good 400 runner, so we will put her in our 4x4 relay and then cross her off. Okay, again down here, Alyssa Morningstar, she's one of our best 400 runners. I'll put her in to this race. I'll put her in our 4x4 and we'll cross her off. Okay, the rest of these girls, obviously I could go back in and fill in as needed. But that's sort of how you puzzle and piece these things together. I start with your best athletes, get them in the spots that they need to be, fill in your kids that are throwers, fill in your kids that are distance, and then those remaining kids, those kids you'll start to understand what their best events are, where they can be of help in your relays or in your other events. Once you would have all of your 8th graders placed in, you'll probably start to notice, well, I'm not going to get all of these spots filled, okay? That's where your 7th and 6th graders start to come in to fill in. Okay, usually I'll put some of those 6th graders up there just to kind of give us a more full lineup because typically, at least for us, our 7th grade lineup is a little bit stronger. So we like to keep most of these 7th grade kids in that lineup. 6th grade kids kind of move up just to help us fill this space in. Okay, but then you'll just kind of go through, fill in those empty boxes, and hopefully you'll get yourself a nice solid lineup to take to your first meet. Once you have your first lineup made, you can sort of use that as like your guiding point for the rest of your lineups. You can use that to say, okay, well, Whitney didn't do great in the 1600. I only want to run her in the 800. You can take her out and put someone in very easily. So it's not that you need to kind of go through this process every time unless you want to. You can use the lineup that you have started with to kind of move people around and kind of adjust it from there. So once you've got one done, it works out pretty easily to use that for another lineup in the future. Okay, if you've got questions, concerns, you want to give us a sample lineup, go ahead and check out the discussion board on lineups and we'll get back to you.